Hi everyone, it's Keshi and welcome back to Keshi's Corner. I have filmed a video on what my TBR is going to be for the year, my reading goal and my TBR. And I wanted this episode to be a podcast as well as a YouTube video. So, as some of you might know, some of my episodes are podcast episodes that I also put on my YouTube channel, and other ones are just YouTube videos. And I wanted this one to be a podcast episode because even though the experience is better if you're watching it so you can see the books that I'm about to show, you don't actually have to watch or look at the screen. You can just listen to the books that I'm going to be talking about. So, I wanted it to be a podcast episode. However, I did not like the pace at which I was going at in that episode because I feel like podcasts tend to be more conversational, and that one was more, it gave me like a YouTube video vibe rather than podcast. So I wanted to record it again. But not only this, it's not just the tone of the video. I also didn't like how slow I was in explaining everything. I feel like I wasted a lot of time. I think it wasn't my favorite. But again, not just this. As soon as I filmed that video, my reading taste, I guess, or either taste or whatever I wanted to read for the year kind of changed. I came across some other ones and I was like, oh, I literally just filmed this video saying those are the books that are on my TBR. And then I just got a bunch of other new books that I can also now physically show you. But it changed a little bit. So let's do that again. And this one is going to be a podcast episode. So if you're just listening on Spotify or something, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about because the last thing that was a podcast episode had nothing to do with books. So let's just get started. I do have a bunch of books right here. Let me show you. Should I show you, or again, is that not going to be very podcasty? Um, there's actually like 3 or 4 piles. So yeah, I feel like every time I'm like leaning over, I'm actually getting away from the mic. So I will stop it right here. But you will see while I go through the books. And let's just get started right away. So, the reading goal, like I said in the other video, I wanted to read 12 books this year. And I'm actually pretty confident that I'm going to read not only 12, but actually probably more, just based on how much I've been reading and just loving the books I've been reading so far. And I have just so much on my list that I want to get read today. Yesterday, like right away. I just want to know what happens in all of those books. And I'll talk more about them, but also in the other video that I made, I did not give a synopsis or anything about any of those. And then, like 3/4 through the video, I was like, should I have talked about what those books are about? Probably, but I did not. So, we're going to do this video again and we're going to do it better. And so, yes, 12 books is what I have in mind for this year, like a book a month, kind of, even though today is February, like, I was gonna say I was gonna say 22nd. It's like 16. It's Family Day in Canada. Woohoo! But it's February 16th, like mid-February. I do want this video to go out like today. So, but we'll see. What I mean is like it's midway through February, but I have read one book already. So in the last video, I said I was in the middle of this book, but I finished it like a week or so ago. So I'm in the middle of a second book right now, so I feel like I will definitely be able to read 12 books. Now, in the other one, I did say that I wanted to read 7 fiction and 5 nonfiction. All the ones that I have right here are fiction books. I have one of the nonfiction below, like downstairs, not below. Um, I may or may not go and get it in the middle of this video, but we'll see. For now, the ones that I have here are fiction, and that's what I've been mostly engrossed and most excited to read. Again, in the last video, I was talking about how I was in a reading slump for over a year. Like last year, I think I only listened to A Court of Thorns and Roses, the first one, on audiobook, and that was probably the only reading I did for the year, so that one audiobook. But this year I'm already way ahead of that. Not way ahead, but I have high hopes. I have high hopes. So yeah, let's just get started. I've said that like 4 times and have not gotten started. But the first one that I have already read, so it's not really on my TBR, but it's fine. We'll include it. Just finished it like last week is Hatchet by Gary Paulson. And I was recommended this book because it takes place in Canada. Like it's a plane crash and it crashes so his name's Brian. Brian is going from the US to Canada, I believe. But just is flying over the Canadian wilderness and the plane crashes and he's just left alone there and the only thing he has with him is his hatchet. So he's like 13 years old. So that's about I can't why am I stuttering that much? What is happening? That's about his story of survival, I guess. And yeah, I was recommended this book because I love, or at least this past summer, I did a couple of like outdoorsy things, like bushcraft courses and kind of those things like that. So those like survival little skills and things like that are what probably would appeal to me. And it did. I would say, should I give my thoughts on this book already or have a different video about that? I'll just say in that one. Because I don't think I'll make a whole new other video just on Hatchet, just because it was a 3 stars, I would say. I don't know if I'm giving it a 3 star. Yeah, I think that's a fair rating. So it was a very simple book. And in some way, I think maybe a little bit simplistic for me, but I do understand that it's a kid's book or like a teen, middle grade kind of book. So I can't expect it to have so much like flowery writing or things like that. It's just that I'm at this point at 25 just used to or prefer books that have a little bit more description, a little bit more drama, let's just say when something happens. I did talk a little bit, I gave an example in the other video, but yeah, basically just the talk about an event for a very short amount of time, even if it's something that would be super scary. They just kind of gloss over it and then it's over. And I would have preferred if there was more emotion in each of those scary events. That would have made me enjoy the book more and more survival skills. There was some of them, but if there was some more, I would have enjoyed it even more. There was one or two parts that I really liked when I read through it. One of them was I don't know if that's also a spoiler. But yeah, maybe I shouldn't be saying that. You know what? Maybe I will make a different video about that just to give my review. Because if those of you listening to this as a podcast episode, you're not going to skip ahead. Whereas if you're watching as like a YouTube video, it's easier to skip ahead. But just in case you're in the car and you can't really skip ahead, I'm not going to say this one because it might be a spoiler. But I will give a different review on this book. It was still a 3 star, and I do like at the end there's a couple questions and stuff about like a writing activity and some brainstorming questions, so I do understand the point of that and I think that's really great. Some examples is just about this book is about survival, so name one thing that the students or ask students to name one thing that they think belongs in a survival kit, or discuss how Brian uses information that he has learned um to to survive and things like that. So I think it's definitely like a good one to study in school when you're really like brainstorming the different aspects of survival and of things like that. But just as a casual read, super quick and easy. I didn't read it in one sitting or anything like that because I went through it really slowly because I wasn't super engrossed in it, but it was still a very nice read. So yeah, 3 stars for this one. Now that's the only one that I finished. On to the ones that I'm currently reading slash to be read as soon as possible. So I got a bunch of different books, like physical books. And my mom's like, "Oh, are you back in your phase where you're basically having a collection of books that you use as decoration?" Not just decoration, but basically, my mom is the kind of person who, once she has read a book or something, she's okay selling them. I'm not. I'm really not. I'd like to display them. And even if I'm not gonna reread it, I still want to have it. I do have my Kindle as well that I really enjoy reading on Kindle, and I might have a video where I give pros and cons of physical versus ebooks and things like that. But we're not talking about that right now. I really, really not only like those books, but I think they just look beautiful. Like, look at those covers. If you can, if you're watching and not just listening, look at those covers. Absolutely beautiful. And this one has black pages. I mean, is it still called black pages if it's just kind of like the edge? I guess like black sprayed edges or whatever. But anyway, I should probably talk about what the books are. Especially for those again who are not watching but just listening. But that's Fourth Wing. So the series, I believe there should be 5 books once the series is completed, but the third book just came out, so we only have those 3 for now. I'm really hoping that they don't change the covers for the fourth or fifth book because I do not like having series that don't match. But I also didn't want to wait another 2 years for all of them to come out to then have a box set. Anyway, I the amount of tangents I go on is almost funny. Almost. But this is Fourth Wing. I'm really, I would say, like in the middle of it, like halfway through it. I am absolutely devouring this book, absolutely loving it. I think yesterday I read like 100 pages or so, and that's a lot for me. That's a lot of reading for me. I'm a slow reader, but also I don't read that much. Like, I do so many different things throughout the day and throughout the week that I don't just sit down and read for hours. But yesterday I sat down and read for hours, and I feel like I might today as well. Well, it's already like almost 4 p.m., but I will read as much as I can for the rest of the day because I don't know. It's just beautiful. I love what's happening. I'm getting like giddy, but also kind of like excited, and then it's thrilling and just there's just so much. I don't know. I thought at first I started reading it and was like, I appreciate it. I quite like it. And as things went on, it's not that there's so many like plot twists that I didn't see coming or anything like that so far, like halfway through. It's kind of like, yeah, there are some things that I didn't necessarily expect, but nothing that got me like gasping out loud necessarily. But there were definitely a few things that got me being like, ooh, well, that's interesting. I don't know if any of my expressions means anything to anybody else. I might just be confusing everybody, but really been loving it. I definitely get the hype. I've seen so many videos of people being like, I don't get the hype. I get it. I absolutely get it. I love it. And I love dragons now. I didn't know I loved dragons that much, but I love them. So that's Fourth Wing. As soon as this is over, I will dive into Iron Flame. This is this look at this book if you can. This is beautiful. I don't have any books on my bookshelf. I've never had any other books with like sprayed edges. I don't think. Actually, I think that's a lie. I might have. But this is gorgeous. And I got those 2 books off Facebook Marketplace. So I was like, oh, they look like new. So this kind lady, I don't know if she read it or what, but if you did, like that's the most like it definitely looks like new. I don't know what to say. This is the best book I've ever gotten off Facebook Marketplace. But then I got this one off Amazon, and that's Onyx Storm, and the third one in it. So I don't really have a synopsis of what happens in Iron Flame and Onyx Storm, and I don't want to. I could obviously read the back of the book. I don't want to because I don't want to know because I might spoil the first book for me. I don't want to know who lives and dies. I don't want to know anything about it because if I read the synopsis and I see characters' names and things like that, then I know, oh, they survived. I want to just, I don't know. I just want to not know anything. And there's already enough spoilers out there on BookTube that I have to just avoid as much as possible that I don't want to learn anything else about those. So we don't know what's going to happen in those ones, but I will give you a synopsis of the first book just so you know what the series is about. So this series is about Violet Sorengale, I believe. How did I've literally been reading that? That's the one thing I've been reading, so I don't know how I even forgot. But Violet, yeah, Sorengale, and she's just a girl. She's just a girl that wanted to be a scribe. I don't know how to describe a scribe, but anyway, doesn't really matter that much. But basically, she wanted to be like a little, not in an office, but scribe has to do with kind of like note taking and like recording history and things like that. That's what she grew up practicing for and training for, I guess. I don't know if that would even be considered training to be yeah, training to be a scribe. But her mom had other ideas for her, and her mom said that none of my children will be a scribe. Every one of them will be a rider, a dragon rider. So yeah, there's dragons in there. I feel like everybody knows what this book is about anyway, but I'm still giving a synopsis if in case you've been living under a bridge and don't know. So she said every one of my children will be a dragon rider or basically will die trying because and that reminded me of Divergent a little bit about how the other, I think it was called Factions or something, how most things were just like fine and you just go in and I don't know, just train for it and get the job or get the not the job, but it's easy enough basically to do most of the other ones except the one that the main character went through, and that's the one that everybody has like 60% chance of dying basically or something like that. And that's the same for here. Like to be a scribe, she would never have risked her life in any way, shape, or form, whereas as a training to be a dragon rider, everything seems like it's risking her life or in other people's lives. So like people just die for trying to do most of what they do. So again, she's just a girl. So she doesn't know anything about it. And she's small. She's weak. She's not cut out for this. But that's her journey, trying to not only survive, but also hopefully thrive. So we'll see. I'm really loving this. I'm liking the like an enemy to love is romance as well in it. So those are all romantasy books, I would say. I think that's what they're called now. See, when I was a little bit addicted to booktube 5 or so years ago, I feel like I never heard the term romantasy because maybe I was younger and I was listening to things about YA fiction, maybe, or but I feel like I was listening to romance as well. Just the term romantic didn't come up, but now it's everywhere. So anyway, so that's the first series that I am in the middle of and can't wait to just devour the rest of. Again, beautiful, beautiful covers and books. I am enamored by it. The second one, okay, sorry. So the second one that I am also super excited about, and I listened to the first one and in the middle of the second one as well, because I'm one of those people who will be in the middle of like 3 to 7 different series. Um, Although right now I just can't put Fourth Wing down, so I've been neglecting the other ones, and I'm like, let me just finish Fourth Wing. But anyway, Akatar, or A Court of Thorns and Roses, and etc. I'll say what each one is, but kind of same thing. So I have read, just looking at that right now, I realized that the books just get bigger. Well, this one's tiny here, but I only listened to the first one, which is A Court of Thorns and Roses, and then I am in the middle of A Court of Mist and Fury, and then there's A Court of Wings and Ruin. Let me actually take it out of the box. I haven't yet. I have not taken those out of the box. I got this off of Book Outlet for like $50, like 50 Canadian dollars for the whole set. That's like $10 per book. That's so good. And they look new. I don't know if they're new. They look new. Because I don't know about you, but I can also never put books back into a set once I take it out, especially once I'm reading it, because I feel like it's no longer that compact then. But anyway, I don't know if it's new. I didn't expect it to be, but $50, that's better than what I get on Facebook Marketplace. But let me take those out to show you. I could not wait and just do an unboxing because I was too impatient for it. But now we're gonna take it out of this box. So, first one, A Court of Thorns and Roses. So I can give you a little bit of a synopsis about that, but for the rest, same kind of thing. I could give you a tiny bit of no, I'm not going to, because maybe some of you as well haven't read the first book yet, and I don't want to give you any spoilers about the second one. And I don't know, some people might be okay knowing what happens in the second book as like the synopsis, but I don't. Because even if I just hear character names, couples, or things like that, it spoils it for me because I know they live through the first book. So when they're in a fight scene or something, I'm not worried because I know they live. So I want to go into it not knowing anything as much as possible. Just knowing as much as I need to make me interested to read it. So this one is about Farah. She is, I was gonna say she's also just a girl, but not exactly, because she goes out and hunts for her family, like for food for her family and things like that. Um, so she is more fierce, I would say, than just a normal girl. But anyway, Farah is in the woods trying to hunt to get food for her and her family. When she comes across a wolf, she kills the wolf. But unfortunately, it wasn't just a normal wolf, and soon after, she gets a little visit at home from another beast, which turns out to be Tamlin, who says, "Hey, well, that wolf that you killed, that was actually my friend, a fairy. Is it a fae or a fairy? I think it's fae. I actually don't know the difference. We write fairy differently from like fairy tale, but at the same time, I feel like this one is fae. I have not read this in a little bit. I listened to this last year, and I read or listened to, I think, like a quarter of the second one. But there are some things. I have the memory of a goldfish, so there are definitely some things that are not so clear to me, or I don't remember exactly. But anyway, like Fae, yeah, we'll call them Fae. Um, there's both. I just don't know the difference between them. I probably should. Anyway, we'll move on. I will probably, hopefully, get better at doing those little book summaries as I do them, but we will see. No promises. But yeah, so basically, he gives her two options. You can either come with me and be a prisoner, or die right now. So either I have to kill you, or you have to come with me and live with me forever and leave your family and things like that. So obviously, since we have 5 books, she decides to go with him, or we wouldn't have books about it. Um, but really love this one. I heard it gets even better as the books progress, and I think I agree. I really like this book. The first part I would say was like, okay, yeah, it's okay. Um, but kind of the last half or so, when more happens, I was like listening in the car to it, being like, oh, what is gonna happen? Like I really liked this. I thought that was really smart, and it was really something I was picturing and visualizing, and I've getting back into fiction. I've really missed that because I don't watch movies as much, but I do prefer reading, even though it takes me obviously a lot longer than just watching a movie. But I like this aspect of visualizing for myself when I'm reading about something. So I would say, like, yeah, the second half of this or so, and now A Court of Mist and Fury. I am enjoying it more and more as I go, but I do want to probably just finish Fourth Wing first and then another one I have here, so I might do those two kind of in tandem. But after I read those ones, I would already be in the world of Sarah J. Maas then. So, well, before I get there, let me give you the five books: A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, A Court of Wings and Ruin, which I feel like might be the biggest book, or the fifth one might be. Um, this one is, I wonder if that one is a novella because it looks little. A Court of Frost and Starlight, and A Court of Silver Flames. I heard that one of them is about another couple, but see, I know who it's about, but I don't even want to give you that piece of information because I feel like that just gives it away. Like at this point in my reading, I don't know that those people are a couple. So it's kind of spoiled it for me, but not so much that it ruins it, but at the same time, I just don't I don't like spoilers at all, which is really funny because once I got spoiled on YouTube. That was like 7 years ago, but I got spoiled for, I believe it was for a Legion, so the Divergent series, by watching a video called "How to Avoid Spoilers." Like how? Like I was like, that was the one safe video to watch. Clearly not. But anyway, after I'm done those because for some reason now I feel like I should dive into series that have a million books. But I will be in Sarah J. Maas's world, so I might as well pick up the Throne of Glass series, which I don't have yet, but I am very much like a hawk on the lookout for a good deal for the box set. I don't want to get just one or two of the books separately. If I get them for a really good deal, I might. I just don't like when books don't match, and that's why I would rather just wait and try to get the box set together. But it is like $100 for the box because I think there's like 8 books, I believe. Which $100 is still a good price, but because I've bought 5, 8, like 10 books this month, I should probably wait for a future paycheck to do that. So, or if my job just decides to give me a pay raise and then I could buy more books. In the meantime, Throne of Glass might also be. See, I don't even read that quickly. I feel like with the books I've already told you, that's it. The year's over. Hopefully not. Hopefully I read quicker so I could also get into. To be fair, I don't know if I will be reading Throne of Glass this year, but we'll add it on the TBR. Let's just say we will. It's just a lot. 8 books is a lot. I do want to read some of them in tandem, like it's supposed to be. Like, I will get more into that. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. I definitely do want to do a review. I wanted to do vlogs as well, but most of the time when I'm reading, I feel like I'm in my PJs or something and I'm not really camera ready. Although I did just come from the gym, so I technically am not camera ready right now, but I'm wearing a little bow in my hair, so that's ready enough. But yeah, I wanted to do a little vlog. I'm usually just not in the mood to whip out my phone and record my reaction when I'm reading it. I just want to keep reading. But we'll see. At least I will do a review video after either the first of this series or just after reading all 3 of them. But by that time, I might forget the first and second. So we'll see how it is. We'll see. But the next one after that I have on my TBR is another series that looks like it would just take me a whole year to read it in and of itself. And that is, I can't even. Okay, wait. That is A Song of Ice and Fire. I was so gonna say, and that is the Game of Thrones series, but that's the TV show. A Song and Ice and Fire, and A Game of Thrones is the first book. See, I have beef with this cover, not only because it doesn't match the other ones, but also because Game of Thrones is the name of the TV show. The name of the first book is A Game of Thrones. Get it Right. Anyway, so I started reading that. I read the prologue already and the first chapter, like Brand's chapter. See, the thing with Game of Thrones is I just watched the TV show. I watched all six, seven, all the seasons. I thought I thought that everybody else was being very dramatic and that I usually am not super that particular about endings of things. I'm pretty content. I was not content with this ending. I was not happy. I was just as disappointed as everybody else was. See, I was just as disappointed as Emilia Clarke seemed to be in that one interview where they ask her about what are your feelings about that last season of Game of Thrones? And she's like, haha, best season ever.
You happy with how things ended? Yes. She didn't say yes. Best season ever.
Yeah. Me too, Emilia. Me too. Anyway, so I will want to read English. I do want to read A Song of Ice and Fire. The main reason is because I feel like when I was watching the show, I missed a lot of it. My boyfriend was explaining a lot of things as we went through, and I was kind of because he read all the actually, I should probably have said all of those are his books, but he was explaining a lot, sometimes based on things that they gloss over in the show, but was explained a little bit more clearly in the books. Or maybe I just miss things in movies. Like I was just talking about, I don't like movies as much. I kind of zone out very easily. I, I definitely close my eyes through all the fight scenes. Actually, like 95% of the time, because 5% I didn't see it coming. And before we knew it, there was a sword in somebody's head or throat or something, and I just didn't look away fast enough. Anyway, reading this, I will not be able to close my eyes through it because I'm reading it. But I heard that the violence is less graphic than it is for the show. And at the same time, usually I can read violence better than I can watch it. I don't know why. I do visualize things really well. So it's pretty surprising to me that I can read through violence and not feel as weird about it. But if I watch somebody getting beheaded, happens a lot in those. But if I watch something like that, then that is, I don't know. I just feel like I was gonna say like I feel like I'm getting beheaded. Clearly not as much, but I don't know if I see somebody's arm getting cut off, I'm like my arm just gets like numb. Like it's like, oh, I can't do it. So yeah, I did look away for like 90%, 95% of the as much as I could look away, I did. But there are a lot of things that I did miss. Also, there were no subtitles, so that made it harder for me to understand what's happening because if I can't read it, then I also can't hear it, right? So super excited to read it. I didn't think I would want to read those books just because they don't look as big here. I do very much kind of prefer hardcover books, even if they are huge. Well, those ones, I don't think they would be considered huge. They're just hardcover and they look bigger. But then having regular sized writing compared to having a smaller book, but then tiny writing. I don't like tiny writing. I feel like I can't read as much. I just get more of a headache or I zone out more easily. But I think just based on how the story is, how the writing is, I was scared it was going to be a lot more like Lord of the Rings when I tried to read that. You know what? I read that when I was a teenager. I went through The Hobbit. I think I finished The Hobbit painfully. It was really difficult. And then Lord of the Rings, I started it. I have all the book, or I had all the books. But then I just couldn't. I couldn't with the English. It was too difficult for me. It was too. And see, I understand. Tolkien is a genius. Like it's great writing and everything. Maybe I was just too young for it. I don't know. I will give it another try, but it just wasn't for me at that point. But I feel like this writing, again, maybe because back then I was like 14, right now I'm 25, so it's a lot easier for me to be reading that. And I understand a lot more now. But this, at least the first chapter of it, very beautiful, right? I do understand when people look at Fourth Wing or even A Court of Thorns and Roses or other books and they're like, those books that are selling like millions right now, but they have nothing, or they are nothing compared to things like George R. Martin Martin Martin's writing or Tolkien's writing. I get it. Like this writing in there is beautiful, and when I read the other ones or when I watch something, sometimes I'm like, I could do that. I could do better. I could write something like that. I couldn't write something like A Song of Ice and Fire just based on what I've had so far. Not only is it, I think it's genius, his ability to create those worlds, choose those names. I feel like naming, if I were to like write a book one day, naming characters would be really difficult. I really like a lot of those names and how the name perfectly portrays kind of like character. I don't know. He does a really good job with names too, but the world is crazy. The language, just making up a new language, I think that's just absolutely genius. I know a lot of people have beef with him because he won't finish the series. We're waiting on The Winds of Winter, and then there's still um a chance a chance of something of spring. A Dream of Spring is the last one. So we have two books technically left. I wonder if he's worried that the ending is too close to the show's ending. The ending that he had in mind was too close. So then he probably not. Probably not. I think he just wants it to be perfect. And also, what I heard about like writers is that you can be like a gardener, which is kind of like, I think it's also called like pantser, or an architect, or like a planner. So George R. Martin is definitely more a gardener. So he kind of discovers his story as he's writing it. So, after writing all of that, maybe he just feels like he's a little bit stuck now and he just can't. Like, there are some things, if he were to like go back before he published any, maybe there were some changes that he wanted to make, but maybe that's why he's not able to finish it so far. I don't know if he will ever finish it. Um, but even if he doesn't, I say that now. Maybe I won't be when I read the last book that we have so far, but I'm definitely excited to go through it. Definitely love the writing so far. I do want to also document me going through the series. And I will go through it because most of the videos I've watched of people going through A Song in Ice and Fire, go into it kind of blank, not knowing anything about it, haven't watched the show. I have watched the show completely, so there's a lot that I know that it happens, but even the first chapter or two, there's a bunch of things that when I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, I've totally missed that in the show. Because I didn't know it was significant. Maybe just watching the show again, I would have captured some more things. Like, I'm not sure, but a lot of things I didn't know they were important for me to remember, and there's so much to remember, so many characters and things like that, that it just, I don't know. Part of me thought, why take the time to remember all of them when most of them are probably going to die, from what I heard about um Game of Thrones. But just reading their names, definitely easier for me to remember them than just like hearing it. So very, very excited for that. I actually don't know what the, does it say on there which one is book one and book two? I don't know what the what was I gonna say? Sequence or order of reading is. Okay, so it looks like it's a Game of Thrones. It looks like this is actually, based on what I'm seeing in the second one, this looks like it is its first book. Like the cover does match. But then why is this one about the show with Ned on it and the other ones are, they don't look like they actually match. Like the size does, but Anyway, let's not get into that right now. This first one, I don't know why I'm studying that much. The first one is a Game of Thrones. The second one is A Clash of Kings. The third one, A Storm of Swords. The fourth one, let's see, which one is the fourth one? A Feast of Crows, or this one. And it looks like the last one, or the fifth one, is A Dance with Dragons. So, those will take me a while to read. Again, even if I do read all of those I mentioned before, I will probably read this before I read Throne of Glass. But it will be the end of the year by now, probably. I definitely don't read as fast, but I do want to read more this year. So we'll see what month I'm able to get to those. While we're talking about that, I was going around and organizing my boyfriend's bookshelf yesterday to find more places to put my books. So while I was doing that, I found 3 more books from George R. Martin. Martin. I have trouble saying things, names that have an R and then T. I noticed that. But anyways, um, and I think 2 of them might just be different copies from what he was telling me. He just got another one, like if he was aware or something, he just got another copy. But yeah, so this one is A Feast for Crows. Okay, so yeah, that's the same book. See, I will definitely be reading this version of it because it's bigger, chunkier, heavier, but so much easier to read based on this word, like this font, I guess, compared to this little one. Tiny writing. So that's oh, so that's one of the other ones. The next one, for some reason, he has a hardcover without the jacket, but a hardcover for it. Amazing, beautiful. This one is A Dance with Dragons. So the last one, I will definitely be reading this copy as well. Again, beautiful, big font. It's not like huge font, it's just regular font. And with the maps too. Very intricate maps. And then this one is A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Did I say kingdoms? Kingdoms. I have no idea what this one is about, actually. Oh, he was telling me that one of them is about Maester Aemon's brother? Egg? Brother? Question mark? So maybe that one is about that. So should I find a reading order for it? I feel like it's shiny. It's pretty. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. I'm a kid. I don't think it's that particular of a reading order as Throne of Glass or things like that are. I feel like this one you just read 1 through 5, and this one is the next one that you read after. So we'll see. I'm not sure. I could find a reading order, but we'll see. Now, today we were at like a family day, which there was like a family day by like the gym that we were at. And I saw that there was a table with books for sale. So I was like, let's go and just look at the books. And then it turns out that the books were only $1 each for paperback and $2 for hardcovers. So I got them. I got them. Now, I could have gotten more. But those were the 2 ones, the only ones that really caught my eye, as and I have heard about those books on BookTube years ago, actually. But I have heard about them. I've definitely heard about the author V.E. Schwab, or is it Victoria Schwab? Probably. But I've heard about V.E. Schwab being an incredible author, incredible writer. So, $1 Canadian, which is even less than $1 American, for a book, like $2 for all this adventure, I could not say no. And I was lucky to find 2 of the ones in this series. I do not know what just happened, but my camera was recording perfectly and then it decided to stop recording. So I hope you didn't miss any of my dramatic presenting of this those books that I got for, again, say it with me, $1 each at the book sale. Every time there's gonna be books sold for $1, I'm gonna get at least one of the books. I was like, "We don't need any more books. You have so many books you have to read, and you don't read that quick." I know, but $1? Yes. So, A Darkest Shade of Magic is the first one, and A Gathering of Shadows is the next one. I did not talk about what Game of Thrones is about. I think people know what Game of Thrones is about. And also, I don't want to give it, if you don't know, I don't really want to give any spoilers, and I don't know what constitutes a spoiler because so much happens. So I'm not really going to, I would say just about Game of Thrones is about like the Stark family going through some things. Because it's all like a bunch of their points of view. There's different houses, different, yeah. Like you know what? I'm not gonna go into what that's about. I don't know what would constitute a spoiler. So much happens so quickly, basically, in the show or in the books that I don't want to give anything away. Let's get back to V. Schwab. So, A Darker Shade of Magic is the first one. So it's a trilogy. Darker Shade of Magic is the first one. A Gathering of Shadows, the second one. So I was very lucky as to have found the first two books in the trilogy, and the third one is A Conjuring of Light. So I don't have that one. Um, we'll get to it if I like those two books. So this one, I can read the back of it just because I don't know too much about it. The only thing I really know about is there's like different worlds. But basically, let me read. Welcome to Great London. Dirty and boring, without any magic, with one mad king. Then there is Red London, where life and magic are revered, and White London, a city slowly being drained through magical war down to its very bones. And once upon a time, there was Black London, but no one speaks of that now. Officially, Kel is a red traveler, one of the lost magicians who can travel between the worlds, acting as ambassador and messenger between the Londons in service of the Moorish Empire. I don't want to keep reading through it in case, again, I don't like when I accidentally spoil myself with something that maybe it's not a spoiler because it's at the back of the book as the synopsis, but I just didn't want to know about it. So basically, there's different Londons: Grey London, Red London, White London, and apparently there used to be a Black London, but no one speaks of it now. And then there's this traveler that travels between the different Londons. So that sounds like one heck of a story. Like, that sounds very interesting. So I'm excited to read those two, but I do have all of the ones I mentioned before. I kind of gave it in an order of what I probably will be reading, approximately ish. Um, but I will want to get to that probably while I'm reading something else. Because, like I said, I usually do want to have a couple things on the go. So I maybe keep one book in the bedroom and one book in my bag. So I don't necessarily bring the same thing around all the time. I just keep it in different places and I just read it then. Unless I get really engrossed in one story, then I carry that book with me all the time. But now I have another book here. This one was not on my TBR until about 3 minutes before I started this video, and I was gathering all my other books from the bookshelf downstairs, and I saw this book. That's also one of the Four Prince books that I think I read already. But I know this story ish. From what I remember, and my memories could very much be betraying me, but it's called Perfume, the story of a murderer. I remember when I was in high school, I think it was one teacher who was giving little snippets of different things. I don't know if we're talking about movies or books or things like that, but he gave a little bit of a snippet into a story of a murderer that had to do with people's perfume, basically like killing people and making them into a perfume or something. That's kind of what I remember from that snippet. And I don't even know if that's exactly the book that it is, but I feel like it might be. And that also sounds so interesting. I feel like murder mysteries, like stories about like serial killers or just murderers and things like that, like crime novels or suspense ones are so interesting. I don't get as much into them. I don't like the movies and shows that much just because I'm a chicken and I get really scared really easily. But reading about it, I think I should read more. I really definitely prefer when there's a bunch of romance and things. I really like romance, but sometimes when it's just romance and nothing else, I'm kind of bored after a book or two. I'm like, okay, I need more. So I'm really liking Fourth Wing because there's so much happening as in like it's fun still. It's nothing too exhausting to read. Like it doesn't take too much of my brain to go through it. But at the same time, there's more that's happening. I like the magic, different magic systems in books. I like the world building. Again, being able to live. I feel like I'm living different lives. Was it Tolkien that said, um, a reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies versus somebody who doesn't read only lives one life? I really feel like I'm living in the Fourth Wing world right now. I definitely do not want to be in this world where somebody's going around killing people and making perfume out of them, or at least that's what I think he's doing. But very excited to read that one too. And that one might be kind of when I need a break between all the fantasy because I have a lot of, I think epic fantasy is what I would describe it. I'm not completely sure, but I have a lot of fantasy stuff going on. And those are series between 3 books to like 8 books for some of them. So I definitely sometimes would need a little bit of a break and either have, one of those books or perfume, or I probably will get into more of this genre as well. We'll see. We'll see. I'm very excited for that one too. But it might just be a later throughout the year kind of book. Sorry, it might be a later throughout the year kind of book, probably, but we will see. And apart from that, I do have another one that, again, I recently thought about it, but I do want to read some of his books, and that's Brandon Sanderson, because I have been watching a lot of his lectures that's on YouTube for free on his channel. They're like hour-long lectures on writing. Am I writing a book right now? No. Am I gonna write a book at some point? Probably, because I'm a cashier of all trades and like to dabble into everything. Definitely have some ideas for that, but I'm like, I definitely can't write like Mr. George. Can I write like some of the other ones? Maybe. I don't know. Um, will I probably lose interest in writing after doing for a couple months? Likely. But I still probably want I have written 2 stories that were in a short story book collection. Actually, I should show you guys that one day. I have written 2 of those short stories, really liked it. So I guess I have published work. But besides that, I have also, when I was younger, attempted to write a book. I have attempted to write a fan fiction one about, actually 2, I think, about Naruto when I was watching that. So that was when I was a kid. And then when I was a teenager, I was writing a story of, I think it was a vampire werewolf kind of story. Um, I remember this I remember this very well as to how it started, and I wish I had Google Docs back then. I think it was just written on Word. I only had probably like less than 10 chapters written, but I wish I could go back and find them and read them because I do feel like I was pretty good at writing. It wasn't completely simplistic. I do remember my mom reading it and being like, those are some like pretty flowery writing and like pretty descriptive. Like I had the um it was pretty good for my age, I would say at least. From what I remember, but maybe I'm just I don't know. Maybe I thought I was better than I actually was. But I remembered the book started with being so he stood on the edge of a cliff or something and was considering all the possibilities of things that had happened and then just like dropped, like jumped off or like fell off the cliff. And while he's going down, then the memories kind of go back, and then you go into a flashback leading to how it's getting to that position as to somebody just jumping off a cliff or something. Um, but I remember that was really interesting that I just the wait story that was like kind of the first paragraph of it. And then if I was reading something like that right now, I would be like, oh, how do we get to that point? But then again, so I don't know. I thought that was really interesting for like a 13-year-old or so, however old I was, to write that. But back to Brandon Sanderson, I've been listening to a bunch of his lectures and I do want to read his writing. He has a bunch of books out. I feel like he has quite a few books out, but I think the best one to start, even based on what he was saying, is the Mistborn trilogy, I believe. And I don't know much about the Mistborn trilogy, but I believe it is a world where basically the bad guys have won, and then the good guys are trying to do something about that, but I'm not entirely sure. I believe it is that series as well that portrays being able to use like having powers from metals, being able to use metals for different powers and things like that. So that also sounds like a pretty cool magic system, pretty cool story, pretty original to read about. But yeah, that's the fictions that I have right now. So I say I have like a goal of reading 12 books this year. There were more than 12 books. I'm definitely not going to be able to read through all of those this year. But if you would count Hatchet, and then the 3 here, that's 4, plus 5, that's 9. And then is there 5 Game of Thrones books or Song of Ice and Fire books? If there's 5, oh, actually there's 6 with this 7 Knight of Seven Kingdoms. So that was 9, 15, 16, 17, 18. So that's already 18 books. A trilogy like the Mistborn one. I think it's a trilogy. If so, it would be 21, and that's just fiction. I had in my list in my TBR this year to read 7 fiction. That's like, that's like 3 times as much. And that's not even the nonfiction that I was talking about. But I think for the nonfiction, you can just go to my YouTube and watch the other video I had about, because I feel like it's a whole different video. I was talking about Greek mythology and things like that in there. So a few books that I was like, I want to get back in the Greek mythology phase like I was in my second year of university mostly. And here are the books I'm going to read this year about Greek mythology. And in this video, as you can see here, tell, I have not mentioned any one of those. So if you want to know what plan I had before now, and I think I'm gonna stick to like this kind of plan, new plan more so. But if you want to know what plan I had before, but also the nonfiction books that I have, because I still want to be reading at least 5 nonfiction this year, but I'm not gonna repeat myself for all of those. So just go, I'll link the YouTube video that I made about the other one below. Just know going into it that it could have been a better filmed video. Let's just say that. But that's okay. I'm still working on getting my vibe, my way of talking to the camera, because it's a little bit weirder than you think just sitting here and talking to myself for like 45 minutes or more. But let me go back and put all of those beautiful books back in their rightful spot on the bookshelf, except the one that I will keep reading. Let me know if you would like, because this is not a book talk, booktube. This is not going to be all about books, this channel. I actually wanted to change the name again. I recently changed it to Keshi's Corner, but I wanted to change the name to Keshi of All Trades. And you know what? I might, just because I do so many different things and I want people to know that. Like, you will see me dabble in so many different things. And that's kind of it. Like, I'm gonna be not an expert necessarily at anything, or at least 90% of those things, but I do like venturing in a lot of different things and just having a little bit of experience with all of them. So it's not gonna be just a book channel, far from that, but I do want to share my experience with them because I do like reading those and I do like reading and I got my love for reading back. So I'm super excited. Speaking of, you will see more merch about books coming out now that I'm more excited about those. So, speaking of merch as well, and just Chili Goose business, I have a few things coming up. I have more mystery boxes and bags. I really want it to be about gifts because that's what I started out with, but I have more like boxes coming out. Either it could be mystery or it could be something you could build your own box, but I will have bridesmaid bridesmaid proposal boxes. I will have newborn gift boxes like just for little babies. I will have pet boxes. So for the babies, you would have like a baby onesie, a little like beanie, socks, little gloves, and a few little things for little babies. And then for the pet ones, you will have like a dog shirt, I guess, like one of the dog outfits. Obviously, there's different sizes from like extra small to extra large or something for them. You'll have a bandana in it, and all of those could be customized too. I'm super excited to bring out all those boxes. I will be launching those hopefully by the end of the month here. I'm waiting on a bunch of things to come. But not only would I have this, but when I go to markets, I kind of want to cater it a lot more to either some themes like bookish and things like that that I've really been loving, or I want to have more kid stuff out as well, just because when I see people coming with their kids and things like that, I don't know, that just makes me really happy to see it. So I want to be able to cater to that market as well because I'm able to do so much with the sublimation and like the things that I have to figure out where I want to focus on. But the gifts is definitely something that I feel so happy packing like a box like that. So those are a few things that I have just coming up as an FYI, but I will give you more information on that as I'm launching it. I should get better at my Instagram and TikTok, but there's just so much to do, and I do prefer YouTube and like the podcast as well. So if I had to focus on something, it would be that. But thank you very much for watching for today. I'm so excited to dive into all of those. If you have read any one of those, let me know in the comments which one you've read. Please don't put any spoilers, or if you do, just put like spoilers first, because how disappointing would it be to get spoiled about those books on my own channel, or even for other people? Like, don't spoil. If you want to give your review or things like that, though, I am welcome. I would love to hear your thoughts on them. Again, just put spoilers, capital letters first before your comment, if you do have any spoilers, or you can just give your general thoughts about them and let me know if there's any of those that you want me to read first or any other series that I should get into. Super excited. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye bye.